Hey folks, I'm John Magerl,
And I'm Paul Bomba.
and this is Airwolf to Rewolf.
Guys, welcome back to Airwolf the Rewolf. We're looking at episode 9 of season 1. The enemy is us. What's it called?
And they are us.
And they are us, which is a line that's spoken in the episode. We'll get that in a little while, but pretty interesting episode, I'd say. But we need to get something out of the way first. So we're going to actually switch up our format a tad. John, tell us, this is the 80s. So what do you think?
Well, folks, we did a little talking early on, and it's our opinion that the depiction of the fictional African nations, their infrastructure, their geography, their people, is racist. It was racist then. It was not atypical, but it was racist, and through a modern lens, it is unacceptable and disturbing. We wanted to address
Yeah.
it at the top.
I mean, we can go into this and have a whole episode talking about what this means, but that's not what the show is about. We're actually here to celebrate the show Airwolf and enjoy it. So we understand it has its flaws, and we're addressing that here, but we're gonna move on and talk about the episode from a story perspective, because that's what we do. This was in many ways an exciting episode. There was a lot of dogfighting, there was some explosions, there was battles, there was a little bit of romance sprinkled in here and there, and
Yeah, there was that.
for the most part, it's a pretty straightforward story, right? North and South Limbawe are at war. North Limbawe is supported by, I mean, it's not exactly clear, but they're kind of supported by the CIA, the firm, by Archangel, and South Limbawe has access to Russian weapons, curated by their Generalissimo down there, who's Soviet trained and ready to go to war, firing missiles at the North. We open up where we're seeing two planes, two kind of World War II era, Black Sheep. Do you remember that show, Black Sheep?
My dad loved that show. Yeah.
Yeah, it was that plane,
Yeah.
right? They call them a Corsair. So these two Corsairs are coming in. There's a bunch of like guys at radio stations. Oh my God, it's an alert, red alert, everybody. And these helicopters lift off. There's 5 of them. And they're commanded by this guy, Vidor. We'll learn his name is Vidor, but he is a American veteran. He served in Vietnam, and he served, importantly, with Stringfellow and that brother of his. What are we calling him these days, John?
Sinjin. I promised I wouldn't get mad about this again, so we call him Sinjin.
Okay, because I write it in my notes as Sinjin, like Sinjin. More importantly, he was flown with Stringfellow Hawk and Sinjin in Vietnam, and was there when Sinjin went down.
Yes.
So these guys' job essentially is to protect the armament, the ballistic missiles that the South has gotten from Russia.
Yes.
And this is a particular concern to Archangel.
And the North, because it's made clear to the audience that the South intends to use them as soon as they're operational.
So these planes fly in, and these helicopters outwit them. They do a special pincer maneuver. They shoot the planes down, and one of the pilots is able to eject. And we know Vidor is like, yo, guys, let's go collect that guy. We're going to wine him and dine him tonight, and then tomorrow he'll be a POW. And we actually see him whining and dining. They're drinking together later.
Yeah.
But he's kind of presented as this like noble villain,
Right.
which figures heavily into the character. Back in America, Stringfellow has no interest in doing this. He's got no interest in intervening in this African war until
he finds out that Vidor is there, and he might have a clue to where his brother is.
Things start going bad in Africa. Airwolf shows up. He's got some scenes with the president of the North and his wife. There's a little back and forth here between the president and Stringfellow. They don't quite hit it off immediately.
No, there's tension. The president is portrayed as a character who is very begrudgingly accepting the help of the Americans. He wants to be an independent African nation. He's not interested in their help.
Yeah, I mean, he even says, I don't like that we're using outside forces for an African problem.
Yeah.
there's tension there. They get an Airwolf together. He's showing him Airwolf. President Seiko's nervous. And then President Seiko actually threatens to take Airwolf.
Yes.
And Stringfellow's like, well, I could just blow Airwolf up with this lighter.
Yeah.
And then the president's like, well, then in that case, don't blow up Airwolf. Let's have a cigar together. And he's like, okay, let me light your cigar with the lighter. It's weird. It's weird.
Revealing that it was all a bluff, but they laugh about it. Yeah,
yeah, and then they're pals.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And Stringfellow flies over there.
You're absolutely right, sir.
He's like, look, it's 10 miles to the south. Go to the south, Limbawe. Vidor and his men are practicing.
Yep.
But they're not doing so hot. They're missing their targets. They're throwing bombs out of the side of the helicopter.
Yeah.
And Airwolf comes in. He just freaking blows everything up.
Yeah.
He lands. He's like, look, Stringfellow Hawk at your service. Vidor's like, oh, Captain Stringfellow, you served with us in Vietnam. You're great. Come on in. Let's have a drink. Oh, let's have some ice. Ice is very hard to get here in South Limbawe, but I'm going to give it to you because you earned it. This kind of thing.
I think we're meant to. Vidor never believes for a second. He's like, you're too good to do this. You're a good person.
Right.
There's no way you're going to do this. You're full of it. Like, what do you want? He sees through that basically Stringfellow's there to find out about his brother, right? Like, he's pretending to do the stuff so he can find out whether or not this guy knows where his engine is. And he says he
doesn't know. He says, well, you know, we fought. We went down around the same time, but I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what happened to Sinjin. I thought he was repatriated. In comes General. What the heck is General's name?
General Ali Butami.
General Ali Butami comes in. He's like, guys, this helicopter is really nice. Let's take it.
Yep.
A little bit of a fight ensues. There's some pistol play. Stringfellow escapes with President Nagomo. He gets shot, and they fly away. And oddly,
Vidor helps pretty much.
Yeah, Vidor helps, but Butami is kind of like, okay, whatever, you helped.
But I guess we're cool. Yeah, that's also when they grab the president, who was about to get shot. Like the general was going to shoot the president he couped. It was no longer going to be a bloodless coup. It was going to be a bloody coup.
It was going to be a firing squad, right?
But
that's what I'm saying. They grab Nagomo and they're like, let's peace out.
Yeah, they're out of here. Peace deuces. Well, I mean, it is nice that, I hate to say it this way, but that Stringfellow gets shot, right? We've watched them, like, run away from people shooting at them repeatedly, and nothing ever happens. Just kind of walk in, like, it's cool. So he gets shot. That also gave them an opportunity for Vidor, because they showed Vidor, and he was like, get up, kid, get up.
Right.
Because he wants him to get away. Like, so.
Yeah. Yeah, because he lives for 1v1 combat. You know, he wants to have, he tells a cook, Mama, let's call her, earlier in the episode, that the only thing he really wants is to face another helicopter pilot as good as he is in 1v1 combat.
Played by Betty Cole. I not that that's meaningful. I just wanted to give her name because the episode didn't treat her great. So
he's like telling her this whole story about what he wants out of life, and she's like, "You want some chai?" And he's like, "No tea, mama, no tea, mama. Whiskey is what I have."
So what comes next?
I mean, he's shot, but he might as well not be shot, right? He's like, they land, and then he gets nursed back to health, and in the process, Nagomo and Seiko are like forming a coalition government. They're getting along great, and Leah
got them in a room together. Just we're good.
You know, sometimes you just need to talk it out.
Yeah, 100%.
Right. I mean, think of all the arguments we could have had if we didn't just talk. If we just didn't get in a room together and talk it out.
You're right. You're right, man. When you're right, you're right.
Right.
Yeah.
So they talk it out, and Leah is kind of nursing.
Yeah.
Stringfellow to health. He got shot, but he's like, all right, I'm ready to go. And then, there's explosions happening.
Mm-hmm.
We better go look out. And here comes Vidor's guys, and they're doing what they were practicing earlier. They're dropping ordnance out of the helicopter.
Yeah.
What does Leah do here?
She runs out, and she is struck with a seeming direct hit from a mortar shell.
She's blown to bits. No, she's not. She's fine.
She seems fine. She seems fine.
She's gonna be okay.
Maybe a little concussed. You know,
gotta jump in Airwolf. We gotta go stop this missile launch from happening. So of course Stringfellow's like, all right, I'm fine. He gets in Airwolf. They fly in. That pincer move that we saw, the gauntlet,
Yeah.
as it were, that Vidor has his guys do. He tries to pull that on Airwolf. It
It
doesn't work
goes
out. So
poorly.
it's like,
It is. In my notes say a knife through hot butter.
yeah,
They're just like boom, out
you
of
mean
here.
a hot knife through butter, but
Uh,
pulling out the J.R.R. Tolkien
yeah.
reference here, but yeah, he shreds them, like just
Yeah.
destroys them, and then he goes up.
Takes out the base in the south, and just the good guys win. And then we have Vidor's goodbye,
Oh
right?
God. Yep. Yep.
So we
Yep.
have Vidor's going down. The guy who I have described as like the bad guy asshole, who's like his co-pilot, that is actually the one that dropped the
Reed.
bomb on Leah,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, is dead. He's out, and he's going down. He's being all dramatic about it. He has to just go out and just ruin Hawk's day, right? So he's like, I know the fucked up thing is I know where St. John is, and he blows up. Which
He doesn't want
so
to bail out. He doesn't want to pull up. He just
no,
crashes.
he
Well,
just
he met his match. I wouldn't say it was a fair fight,
like it. There's
right?
no way it was a fair fight because it was 5-on-1, but then the one was Airwolf, so like it wasn't fair to anybody.
They're bringing a knife to a gunfight is not even the right analogy. It's like they're bringing spitballs to a gunfight. I mean, they can't touch Airwolf. Anyway, it's enough for Vidor. Vidor is, and then he knows where St. John is. So they get back to the lodge, and Archangel's basically like, "This guy was full of shit. He doesn't know where St. John is."
Yeah, don't even worry about that guy. So
Right.
happy ending, and they cheers to those who survived and those who didn't.
Freeze frame.
Okay.
Well, that's the episode in a nutshell. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I got to say though, I enjoyed it, despite the uncomfortable feelings that I had and the weird,
Yeah.
awkward, like the super awkward moments that occurred.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it. Like it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, they're doing this was going on. Like they wanted to do the proxy war without using any of the real proxy wars. I mean, the proxy war between the Soviet Union and the United States, or democracy and communism, whatever you want to
Right.
call it. And they just put that into Africa and told the story using those parameters. And if you accept the portrayal of the African nations, and I don't mean accept, if you are able to move past that,
Right.
then
Suspend your disbelief,
yes.
we should say.
It was a fun episode, and it's important themes. Just several were handled very poorly, but these are stories. I want Airwolf to tell stories like this, just not do it like this.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into our big things here, because
I think that's a great transition.
there are big things happening here.
We're gonna get to big things, but I'm gonna start with a
Okay.
little thing, and that is the romance between the First Lady, Leah Logana, and Stringfellow Hawk, which was weird, man. Like, there is this really important scene, but right before she gets blown up, where like she's nursing him back to health, and they have like a genuine moment. Like, there's chemistry, and we know how difficult that is. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It sort of comes from nowhere, and then the president catches them, and it's like, I forgive you, and now I trust you. It. I was initially taken out of the story by what we've already talked about. Otherwise, I was in, and then this happened, and I was like, wait, what? Why? What is this motivating? What is the point of this in the story, and where's it coming from?
I agree with you. It didn't make sense, and that's my first big thing was, what the hell is Leah thinking? And it starts here, and it ends when she runs out into an active battle.
Yeah.
Just to get a bomb dropped on her.
It's as if, like, in 80s brain, like, the woman couldn't be an ally to the hero if she didn't also fall in love with him. Because he's the charismatic pilot, you have to fall in love with him.
He's completely irresistible.
Yeah, and I think that's where it was motivated. And it just in my opinion, just wasn't a great story choice. She could have been an ally. That tension could have been created without having there be any sort of romance, because she keeps telling me as the audience how much she loves her husband and admires her husband. And so it doesn't, what story are we telling? You know, like,
But there was so much of this back and forth trust stuff that was going on, right? With the lighter and with initially when he first showed up and he was kind of being gruff towards them. I don't want your help.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll let you help me. You got to take my wife, and Dom's got to take my wife, take care of her. It's just, there's a lot of this. Oh, I don't trust you. I trust you. Oh, I forgive you. Why you could flying so fast? Slow down. Okay, we're good buddies now. You know what? I'm going to take Airwolf.
I don't trust either of you. You take my wife and I'll get in a helicopter and I can't fly with you. Okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's just, listen.
Yeah, I mean, it's consistent with Airwolf at any rate. So,
and these are the pressures of making a TV show, an action TV show with all this big, broad event and stuff, and trying to actually tell that story in the time allotted. You know, those pressures impacted all the choices that we're talking about that were made.
And so this brings me to my second big thing. My first big thing was what the hell was Leah thinking? My second one is, these are not countries, John. These are actually not countries.
Yes, they are fictional nations.
No, but they're also they're fictional. They're fictional places. They're not fictional countries. Like, for example, right?
Okay.
President Seiko has had multiple attempts on his life recently.
Uh-huh.
They say that. They say, "Oh, you've had so many attempts on your life recently. We need this helicopter to save us." So, what is Seiko doing?
Driving around in the bush with his wife in a Jeep?
Yeah, he's in a Jeep. He's sitting in his Jeep or at the base of a tree in the woods. No security detail, nothing. Right? And these guys come up. One of them has a sniper rifle. And he's like going to shoot him.
Yeah.
If you're the president of a country, anyway.
Yeah.
So
it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. No, make any
sense. And the same thing with the Gobo, right? Mm-hmm. Like, there's this advanced base. It's kind of like an outpost.
Yeah.
There's no army. There's no Senate. There's no capital city. There's no infrastructure. But again, you're dealing with the limitations of a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to say that Airwolf can affect geopolitics in some way.
Yeah.
Airwolf is influential. It's important. It's actually going to steer the outcome of geopolitical conflict in Africa. So how do we do that in a TV show? And
and at this point in time, you could get away with portraying African nations in this way.
Look, well, so that's it. We know what's wrong with it. I think we know what's wrong with it, and it's wrong. But it does allow us for some fun stuff to happen. And basically, you're distilling down what's supposed to be a country into a couple of key moments and a couple of key people. So it's a model.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it in a favorable way.
That is the most favorable way we could look at it. And I think that's all there is to say about that.
So if we move forward, John, past my two big points, do you have a second big point you want to share?
I do. Went on a little bit of a classic rabbit hole about the title, and They Are Us. Certainly seemed like something that was a reference, right? So when it's in the episode, Vidor says, "I have met the enemy, and they are us."
Well, actually, it's Stringfellow, right? So Stringfellow gets on the comm when he first does his demonstration for Vidor, and he gets on the comm and he says, "I have met the enemy." To which Vidor responds,
"And they are us."
And they are us.
So this is a reference to a comic, which was a reference to something else. Oliver Perry, American naval officer during the Battle of Lake Erie, sent in a letter, "We have met the enemy and they are ours." Basically saying, we have met the Royal Navy and we kicked their ass. It was the War of 1812 and it was a victory. So the updated version was first used in the 1960s in a comic strip called Pogo. and they changed it to "and they are us," and it was a reference to all of the discord around the Vietnam War, which actually makes it a really interesting reference because it's being said by two people who, in the fictional universe, fought in the Vietnam War and were damaged by it, right? So I actually thought it was quite interesting, the reference that was being made, and thought it was worth bringing up on the show. That's it from my
Yeah,
point.
I mean, I took it in the moment. I mean, I didn't know the history of the reference, but I took it that it meant that these two men, at least at a time, had a certain vernacular about their disapproval of the war.
So that's my number two. Paul, what do you got for your number one?
I may be in a minority here about this opinion, I'll say, but I really liked Vidor.
No, I think Vidor was cool.
This is the first enemy that we've seen in a while, probably going all the way back to the first two episodes
Dr.
with
Moffat.
Moffat, where we have like an adversary on the level of
Yeah.
Hawk. Like I don't doubt in my mind that they could have taken this character and given him his own Airwolf, like
Yeah.
the Russian Airwolf,
Yeah.
right? At some point, and there could be this epic battle.
Yeah.
Now, I know that that's going to happen at some point, right? Airwolf is going to meet its match at some point. It has to, but like Vidor is dead, and that's just too bad. And that's my point. And I like what they did with the character. He's an interesting character. He's a fun character. He doesn't lean too far into the cartoonish suicidalness that Moffat did.
Yeah.
But
he's not a sociopath, right? Like he's actually a character. Like he's the Black Knight for the evil sovereign. He's doing what he's told, but you can look at him and go like, man, if he worked for the right people, he'd be a good guy, right? We'd be rooting for him.
But that's just it. Like he doesn't have. I just didn't get like a compass, like a moral compass of good and bad from him, right? He's like, I'm doing a job. I'm here to like. He said something like, "Oh, I'm here to make a fortune and live my life. What's left of it."
They talked about through his dialogue and a little bit of Dom's actually later in the episode about like he had been destroyed by the work he had done by fighting in the wars, and then he didn't go home and he stayed emergency and he kept killing, and it broke him. I think is what we're meant to believe, sort of as far as having a moral compass, that is good.
So he's like the lawful neutral bad guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's right. It means he has a code, and he's selfish. But the code is central to his being, and he will not defeat. For him, it was, I think, honorable combat, right? Like
right. Like even in defeating his enemies, he wanted to show them respect.
Yes, right at the beginning, right? They have the part where he's like, he is rooting for that guy to get out, the one that survives.
Right.
He's like, eject, come on, man, you can do it. Like he roots for Hawk to get away. Like he wants the good people to survive and maybe kill him, because that's ultimately his goal.
He wants to meet his match, right? He wants to meet the guy that's going to actually defeat him, because he hasn't lost yet.
Yeah, and they talk about him taking on a jet and a helicopter head to head, defeating it.
Going against a MiG in a helicopter. Whew. Heavy stuff.
Yeah,
John, you're number 3, bro.
I think this was the best action yet on Airwolf. I thought it was so good, and I thought, and most importantly, it actually really told a story, right? Like all of the action from the beginning, we are shown the competency of Vidor and his crew. We see Airwolf come, and there's this challenge in front of it, and just Airwolf is so badass. It takes him out so good, and I thought that told everything we need to know, because it is regular helicopters against Airwolf, right? And there would have been a temptation to have some like complicated, like let's really show it, and they're like, no, Airwolf Hawk is the baddest ass, and he has the best tool. This fight is over before it starts. They are toast, and I thought that was so good.
Yeah, it was awesome, and the fact that they had 5 helicopters flying against Airwolf, they had the 2 planes, they had missile silo kind of like bases. They had sniper rifles. They had machine gun fire. It just had so much. It was such a fun, exciting episode. And but again, it's Airwolf is not about Airwolf the machine. You ever see that movie Melancholia? Do you know this movie?
I don't think so.
Well, it's Lars von Trier, who is I don't know, maybe not a good person, but he made this movie, and basically it's about like it takes place when a rogue planet is about to hit Earth.
Okay. Yeah.
So the opening scene of the movie is the Earth being destroyed. That's the opening scene of the movie, and then we like go back in time for like the weeks leading up to it. And something that von Trier said about it was like he wanted the movie not to be about the Earth blowing up. So he just like he shows at the beginning. There's no question the Earth is going to blow up. We know the Earth is going to blow up, and in a way this was like that. It was like this episode is not about Airwolf being the best helicopter in the world, the most powerful weapon in the world. We're gonna breeze through this part. He's just gonna destroy. He's gonna annihilate everybody, and we're gonna get to the people.
Yeah,
and that's what they did. They just like he just went in there. They did their gauntlet. It was no match for Airwolf.
Yeah.
Airwolf shredded them.
They literally fly in, and they're like, Dom's like, it's a trap, and Hawk's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, he's like, whatever.
Yeah. Good luck to them. They can try and spring a trap. We're gonna blow them up, and that's exactly what it is. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was great. It was really cool, and you could tell. You see the budget. You could see what Belisario had to play with here, and it was a lot, and it was cool.
Yeah,
it wasn't a big movie. It wasn't a Rambo. It wasn't a Predator. It wasn't anything of the sort. But for an episode of TV, I mean, the amount of action that this episode packed in, it was spectacular.
Yeah, and listen, sometimes we watch the action sequences and it's like, okay, I've seen Airwolf blow up this jet like 4 times now in the 9 episodes we've watched. But like it was so new and it was exciting. Like even like you said, the Corsairs at the beginning are just like they look cool. I know they're propeller planes, but they are sleek looking, cool propeller planes. Like,
they are awesome looking, yeah.
And yeah, it was really fun. The action was great in this episode, and that's my big. I really enjoyed that part. Thought they did a great job.
Well, I appreciate everyone bearing with us. Please like and subscribe.
You don't have a kind of.
No, I did my 3. What was Leah thinking? That these are not countries, and Vidor's dead, and that's too bad. Yeah, it's a tough episode to kind of critique because there is the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
which is this treatment of the African countries here, and we didn't really spend too much time talking about it because that's not what we're focusing on. So I appreciate you guys sticking with us and having fun with us, and I'm looking forward to the next one for sure.